I know for the last few videos, I've been talking about our identity, both provisional and absolute identity. So I was delighted when I returned home to see in the mail this issue of the New Scientist. Cover story, Who Are You Really? How to Get to Know Your True Self. They use the word true self, and why it's worth the effort. So obviously, I was very curious to see what the New Scientist magazine had to say about who we are. Here's the article. Who do you think you are? There is no direct pipeline to your true self. Well, again, very interesting headline. But then I started to read this story and also started to compare that with insights from the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali and the ancient wisdom traditions, and also looking at my own commentary from Living in the Light, Yoga for Self-Realization, my book with Sarah Finger, my yoga teacher. So as I read this article, I was actually a little disappointed. And the reason is that the author, who's obviously a very well-known expert, he writes for this magazine, and he's listed here as what? He's listed here as is head of features at the New Scientist magazine, obviously an important senior person. The reason I was disappointed is he speaks mainly in terms of personality, and then he divides the personality into 5 independent traits: extroversion, agreeableness, conscientiousness, openness to experience, and neuroticism. I think we're all neurotic anyway. That's the human condition. But that's a pretty incomplete answer to this question, who are you? Or how to get to know your true self. So let's, at this moment, try a few experiments. Look at your hand right now and move it. Feel the sensations of your fingers touching each other or the thumb. Look at its shape. Look at its color. You could do this with any part of your body. And what you're perceiving is the perception that you call a hand or a body. And that perception is dictated by the limits of your perceptual apparatus or measuring instrument or observing instrument, which could be the nervous system and, all the 5 senses. And our normal experiences that there's a world out there, and it is represented somewhere in the brain through neural correlates, but there is a real world out there, and we are experiencing it through our 5 senses, and then those 5 senses deliver to us basically sensations of sound, of texture, of shape, of color, of form, of taste, of smell, which we then interpret as a hand or a body. This is true of any object that you see. The scientific presumption is independent, objective world that I am experiencing somewhere here through the five senses and interpreting it through the mind. But all of that is objective. It's what we call naive realism. I'm the subject and everything else is the object. Of course, you think you are the subject and everything else is the object. Now, I showed this to you yesterday, I think, or a couple of days ago. And there's an article here in Scientific American. The universe is not locally real. So if your body mind is part of the universe, then it is also locally not real. It's as simple as that. So what is this? What is this body? It's a changing activity in awareness. So now ask yourself, am I the changing body, or am I the non-changing awareness in which this and simultaneously all this is a changing process? And the answer should be obvious to you. Think about this. Am I the changing body and this changing world, which goes along with the changing body? Or am I the awareness in which the changing body and the changing world is an experience? In fact, that change is happening at the speed of light, or even faster. You can't grasp it. It's so fast. What we see as a perception is a momentary snapshot. And by the time you actually experience it, it doesn't exist. Even by the time you hear my words, they don't exist. By the time you see me, what you see doesn't exist. The only reason you recognize me is because of a memory, an interpretation of a perceptual activity in the past. So in fact, what we experience as the physical world, or what we call the physical world, including our physical body, is a digital on-off of perceptions. And that applies to every perception, not just color, shape, form, but sound and texture and so on. On, off, on, off. You can't have an on without an off. So you might say, actually, that the physical world, which includes the physical body, is a digital movie. So what is projecting the movie? What is projecting the movie, and why does it seem continuous? Is reality digital or analog, to use human concepts again? And digital means going on and off, and analog means continuous, but appearing as a changing on and off upon observation or measurement or experience. So every experience is an on-off fluctuation of awareness. Every experience, on-off fluctuation of awareness. So who am I? Am I the ongoing experiences that I create by making choices of where I put my attention and intention? So when I put my attention on this, then my awareness is here. And when I intend this, then also my awareness has to be here. Okay, so awareness seeks manifestation through attention. Awareness is here, and intention. It's doing this, or this, or this, or whatever else. Attention and intention in awareness create the experience that we call everyday reality. And therefore, you are where your awareness is. If your awareness is here and doing this, and the awareness is not on, say, a movie that you saw yesterday, or a song that you had heard in your childhood, and it's still there somewhere in memory till you retrieve it. The song is there, the movie is there, the memory of childhood is there, the memory of puberty is there, the memory of adolescence and young adult is there, the memory of hopefully what we call a mature adult is there, and the imagination, which is a projection of memory into the future as an old man all the way to dusty death, is also there. But the memory doesn't exist until it's retrieved, until it's recognized. Now, if you're following this, then you realize that everything which we call the physical universe is this recycling and the evolution of memory. The seeds of memory are called sanskaras, seeds. They're not actualized until there is attention or intention. They're like spores that, bacteria, some bacteria go into spores, and these spores can lie dormant till activated by the right conditions, fertilizer, earth, humidity, moisture, and some attention to the seed with the desire to manifest it. And as I've said before, every seed has the potential for thousands, if not millions, of forests. And so every act of attention and intention is the key to the manifestation of infinite phenomena, because the awareness by itself is not only free of its manifestations, but is free to create endless, infinite manifestations. Endless, infinite manifestations. So who are you? Who's that awareness? Or what is that awareness that recycles and evolves into form and phenomena? Every form is a phenomenon, and every phenomenon is the oning and offing of an infinite, formless, irreducible, fundamental, spaceless, timeless, causeless being, which is constantly in the motion of becoming. That motion of becoming has been called many things. So in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, Maharishi Patanjali calls that motion of becoming vritti. Vritti means fluctuation, or you might say fluctuation, or you might say the on-off vibration of an infinite awareness. It's vibrating. So those vrittis, of course, we experience as sensations, sense perceptions, images, feelings, thoughts. The vrittis are also called Shakti. Shakti means the power. And in this case, that is Chitta Shakti. Chitta Shakti means the Shakti of Chit, which is awareness, manifesting itself as form and phenomena. Who are we then? Let's try this now. We did this with the body. Now think of any thought. Let's say the thought is, book. And then think of another thought. Let's say the thought is phone. Okay. That thought, book or phone, is a momentary fluctuation that we call interpretation of experience. But the interpretation of experience is made of the same things as the experience itself. I'll repeat that. The interpretation of experience, which is thought, and sometimes other ways of knowing, imagination and feeling, all of those are modified forms of awareness. But those interpretations of that thought comes and goes. So now ask yourself, am I the changing mind, or am I the awareness in which the changing mind is an experience? And so on. Am I the changing personality, evolving personality, or am I the awareness in which the changing personality, evolving personality is an experience? Then ask yourself, am I free of my manifestations? It's like the ocean, the depth of the ocean, silent, asking itself, am I free of my fluctuations as the waves? The waves go on, off. And of course, between every on and off is a little break, a discontinuity, before the on comes on again. You can't have an on without an off. You can't have an off without the off. So as experience, you're the oning and off of experience, relatively, and creating a storyline around the experience gives you continuity. And then what recycles all the time is the story which is memory and imagination, sanskara and vasana, which is also karma. Karma is memory. So we have genetic memory, we have epigenetic memory, the cells in our body have memory, the interpretations of perceptual experience have memory, and this is the cycle of creation. In fact, many times it is referred to as the 5 faces of Shiva or Purusha, or the unmanifest order of being, the limitless potential of becoming. You are the limitless potential of being and becoming. Being is the potential, becoming is the activity. But as you can see, you're intrinsically free of the activity that you become. Just like the ocean, the depths of the ocean are manifesting as the currents, the whirlpools, the waves, the water vapor, the clouds, the raindrops, the glaciers, the puddles, the rivulets, and back to the ocean all over again, and then recycling and evolving into limitless weather patterns and objects and forms and experiences. You have the freedom to create, and that freedom comes when you realize that the entire universe, including the body-mind activity that is part of the universe, is your own manifestation. But we're doing it unconsciously. Unconsciously means without any awareness, conscious awareness. It's just kind of happening all the time. So what does then this mean for what we call waking up from the identity which is experience to the identity which is the source of all experience? What happens? What are the milestones? And many have been studying these milestones now as something that is evidence of the fact that more and more people are going through the process of awakening or self-realization. The changes that occur are as follows. Number one, shift in perception. Perception is more present moment and understood as a learned phenomenon, and actually very arbitrary. What we perceive is an interpretation of sensations, but we begin to realize that that's part of the awakening, that we are the dreamer and not the dream. Number one. Number two, there's a shift in cognition, in that we know that we are not our knowing. We are the source of all knowing. The mind gets quieter. It gets more creative. It feels free to create and to love at the same time. So that's the second shift. The third shift is a shift in memory. We use memories and we do not allow memories to use us. Okay, when we allow memories to use us, we are victims of karma. And when we use memories, we are creators. So there is either karma or creativity. Okay, so the shift in memory is third. The fourth is a shift in emotions. Emotions that feel connected to all that exists. And they begin as the feelings of empathy and compassion and love and joy and equanimity, but ultimately of bliss, because it feels blissful to be connected or one with all there is. Okay, so that's the next shift. I said perception, cognition, memory, emotions. Perception, cognition, memory, emotions. The fifth is a sense of self. Sense of self shifts from the experience to the source of the experience, from the body-mind universe to that which creates the body-mind and universe, the divine self. So that is a very significant shift as well. Sense of self is no longer the body, no longer the mind, no longer the world, but that which curves back within itself and creates the body, mind, and the world. That's a shift in sense of self. Finally, there's also a shift in sense of agency. Agency means I have the freedom to choose, and yet I am highly intelligent in the freedom of choiceless awareness. Because in choiceless awareness, the whole universe is evolving as myself with no resistance, no regrets, and no anticipation in this timeless now. And this timeless now is actually not even a moment in time, because this timeless now contains both subject and object of experience as its own self. And so the whole evolution of the universe is happening in timeless now, this too. Choiceless awareness is loss of sense of personal agency, identifying only with the divine, which is at all times infinite, at all times infinite possibilities, at all times infinitely creative, at all times the source of attention and intention, at all times modifying itself as the experience of mind, body, and universe. Now, my friends, before I end, you must maybe get a little fed up with my possibly repeating myself too often. But, I have been obsessed forever with knowing reality. And reality ultimately is nothing conceivable or perceivable. The infinite cannot be conceived or perceived, and yet that's who we are. Nothing perceivable or conceivable, but the source of all that is conceivable and perceivable. This is freedom to create. This is also freedom to love. Love and creativity go together, but love as the ultimate truth, Sat, truth, Chit, awareness, Ananda, bliss. So if you're tired of listening to this, you can tune out. You probably already are. But if you can possibly experience this, you will realize that even the models of reality are made of awareness. There is nothing that is not made of awareness. You and the universe are awareness. And the manifestation is whatever you put your attention on and whatever you intend. So right now, if you're putting your attention on what I'm saying and what you're perceiving as this image on your screen, then that's your experience. And it's not the experience at this moment of a strawberry ice cream or chocolate or a snow-clad mountain or the Empire State Building. All those manifestations lie dormant as you experience one fragment of yourself. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, I hold the whole universe with a fragment of myself. And Lord Krishna represents the field, Kshetra and Kshetragya. I am the field. I am the knower of the field. And the field is pure consciousness. Once you know yourself as the field and the knower of the field, you are free. You are liberated from everything that humans call the experience of suffering. Okay, I hope that's useful. If not, please tune out.